What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. There's no NBA going on this week. However, we've got plenty of volleyball news, such as last week was the last week of the VNL Volleyball Nations League preliminary round. Which teams are going to the semifinals or the Final Four, and which teams are going to be on the outside looking in. Also, we have some more NCAA volleyball transfer news. We have some decisions regarding some noteworthy NCAA volleyball players. Which players are staying and which players are going. Also, we have some AVP news, as the AVP has recently announced its recent dates of its series that's going to be going on this summer, and it's also announced its locations as well. Where will these games be played at, and when and where will these games be played at? Also, we have a little bit of news regarding the NBA, and then also, more importantly, we have an interesting little situation, what happened with Team USA's women's volleyball team. All that and more here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you very much for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, as I will be the last show closing out the day of shows on this little Monday mania, as I've pretty much called it. And we've also had other shows such as The Defining Moment with Larry B going on. We also had Reppin' the NorCal Sports with Gina G, which followed that. And then an hour before me, we had Adam Karnick's show, Chi-Town Weekly, all of which were done amazingly, and I highly recommend listening to those shows. So, especially if you're a fan of NorCal sports, Chicago sports, and just sports in general. So, without any further delay, let's get on into the volleyball action. But first, we have our sponsor to make note of, and our official sponsor of IE Sports Radio is the Southern California Warriors Semi-Pro Football Team. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organization. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get film to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you've been waiting for as an athlete. You can follow SoCal Warriors on Twitter at Southern California Warriors. You can follow them on Instagram at Southern California_Warriors, and then you can follow them on Instagram by typing the word Southern, the word California, and the word Warriors. So thank you to SoCal Warriors for being the official sponsor of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Now, without any further delay, let's get on into the volleyball action. So, I actually didn't know if I was going to be doing Set Point just because there wasn't too much going on, and then I realized, oh wait, we have a lot to talk about. I mean, there's no NBA going on this week, and yes, the volleyball or the playoff format that was for the NBA is 1 versus 4, then 2 versus 3 when it came to the National and American Conference. So, just needed to get that out of the way. So we'll be skipping the NBA, which is unfortunate. I'll be talking about the NBA in about 2 more weeks because the playoffs start on June 9th, and I believe they go through June 11th. So that's going to be some fun times, and I honestly can't wait. So let's jump into some VNL action, Volleyball Nations League. So, Team USA's women's volleyball team concluded its preliminary round this past week. So, this was on Friday. Yeah, Friday. Like, it was 3 days after they beat Turkey, which was a huge win for them because that pretty much locked in first place. 3 days after they played Poland, and they actually won that one in 3 sets, but the first 2 sets were very tight as they won those first 2 sets 29-27. I guess it's natural just because you're facing a team coming off of a big win such as Turkey. And then Poland, I guess, isn't too bad, but USA eventually got it together in the third set as they won that third set 25-14 and the match, as they were pretty much one win away from locking up the top spot in the up-and-coming semifinals of the VNL tournament. And then this past Saturday, that was a 3 a.m. start, so I would not have been able to catch that. I just can't stay up till like 3 a.m., even though I am somewhat of a night owl. But regardless, USA defeated Russia in 4 sets. They took the first set 25-21. Then they took the second set, they lost the second set 27-25. Then they won the third set 25-23. And then the fourth set was the most one-sided set as USA defeated Russia 25-15, winning the match and then clinching the number 1 seed in the semifinals of the VNL. So there's that, and great stuff. Then yesterday, which was another 3 a.m. game, the U.S. women's team had their last preliminary match of the preliminary round against China. Now, USA had already locked up the top seed. They had already locked up a spot in the playoffs. They were in. Like, it didn't matter what would happen. And eventually, and surprisingly, to everyone's dismay, USA actually lost to China in straight sets. They lost the first set 25-10, they lost the second set 25-20, and then they lost the third set 25-17 to China. Now, China had really nothing to play for except for pride, and pretty much Karch Kurali, or however his last name is pronounced, Coach Karch, he basically shuffled his lineup quite a bit. And he was not all that happy with... He wasn't too happy with the loss. He said it was disappointing, but he also went on to say that his team has had disappointing wins as well. So, and here's the thing that I saw on Twitter. I had never seen anything like this. Everyone and their mothers, or mostly everyone and their mothers, flipped out over seeing China lose. It's like, what is Coach Karch doing? Why is he starting this player over that player? It's like, don't you people know that the terminology resting your starters? Because the last thing USA needs is to lose a star player before the semifinals. It's like, I don't understand. Like, everyone and their moms lost it when they saw China beating the US. And it's like, guys, come on. It's so ridiculous. I even had to chime in on the set point account and straighten everything out and say, look, y'all, did it ever occur to you that this one loss does not mean anything? And I even said that it's better to lose now than to lose in the semifinals or the finals, because now it's really tough to go undefeated and win a championship. No matter what sport, what profession, what level, what anything is, it's tough to go undefeated and win a championship. And honestly, again, the match against China had no implications. It was basically just a final tune-up match. So I understand why Karch decided to throw a different lineup in there. And he didn't really play his starters all that much. And it's totally understandable. I just don't think everyone else understands. It's kind of like how the NFL rests its starters. Well, NFL teams rest their starters for the postseason if they have made the playoffs or pretty much have locked in a certain seed. Now, if USA was still fighting for a top seed or still fighting for a spot in the semifinals, I would understand that. But since they've already had the spot locked up, there should be no one saying anything. Like, that match was basically just for glory for China. It was ridiculous. It was really, really. It was a joke, man. Like, these fans kind of need to like realize this, and it's so. I could just skim through all of the comments on that. On the whatchamacallit, on the reply of, or on the tweet of, the U.S. women's volleyball team fell to China 3-0, and they finished preliminary round 14-1. That's still pretty impressive. And here's what I said. I said the silver lining of this loss: the U.S. got their bad loss out of the way and were better losing now than losing in the semifinals. The U.S. already clinched the best record in the preliminary round. Now the real season begins for them. Let's all try to calm down, people. Yes, I even included let's all try to calm down, people. And then I also said, maybe Karch was resting starters / trying out different lineups. No need to risk the starters getting hurt when the U.S. has clinched the best record in the preliminary round. No matter what the case may be, this loss means squat diddly going into Thursday. And a few people actually agreed with me. I'm surprised no one decided to, argue with me and choose death. Well, not death, but me providing a great argument and saying, you are wrong, and because if you're going in 15-0, that just paints a bigger target on a team's back going into the championship, and it gives more teams more motivation. Now that the U.S. has one loss, they basically could just use this one loss to see what they need to better themselves in, and then they just need to bring in the starters, and then poof, that's it. So, I still don't understand why people made a huge deal out of one itty-bitty loss. It's so ridiculous. Some of these comments are just facepalm worthy, man. And one person said, I feel like Karch didn't respect the libero position. He thinks anybody could do it. We have amazing liberos at the college level, but he keeps using Robinson, Courtney, and Hill. And I understand the primary libero is Justine Wong-Orantes, but again, you don't need to play your starters. And again, I didn't want to engage with some of these fans. I mean, I just replied to the USA Volleyball tweet. I didn't want to ruffle anyone's feathers or have these keyboard warriors come at me. I just replied and said my little take, and apparently I am a good little boy, and no one has decided to chastise me. So that's good news. Good news for me. All right. So anyway, now the semifinals are set. Team USA will face Team Turkey in semifinal number 2 at 10:30 a.m. Unfortunately, this is not being streamed on whatchamacallit. It's not being streamed nationally. And then Larry B in the chat room, thank you for tuning in. He says, that would be a dumb move to play your starters so close to the Olympics. Yeah, I agree. And this whole Volleyball Nations League is kind of like a little bit of a final tune-up, as it's like a final tune-up for the Olympics. And I think the U.S. team, women's team, is pretty much it's been finalized, but obviously, but you never know what Karch could do, because he's a pioneer when it comes to coaching. When it comes to coaching volleyball and playing volleyball. I even one time saw him playing beach volleyball, and he was furious at a call that he tore down the net. But I digress on that. But Larry does make a good point, playing the starters so close to the Olympics. I mean, you obviously want to play your starters to win, because you want to send a message to everyone else, and you basically want to get your starters the repetitions, but when the Olympics do come around. So if they're playing a match that doesn't matter, it's totally understandable. You don't want to play your starters when in a match that does not matter. In the semifinals of the VNL, yes, then you play your starters, but not when it does not matter for your team. So okay. So yeah, like I said, USA plays Turkey, while Brazil will be playing Japan in the other semifinal. That's going to be a 7 a.m. start time, which, again, it's not going to be streamed nationally. And oh, by the way, I guess I need to also make note of this. China finished 10-5, which was good for 5th place. Turkey finished 11-4, so I don't know if Turkey lost on. No, I guess Turkey actually did lose to Brazil on their last day. So Turkey losing and China winning did not matter because Turkey went with a record of 11-3, while China had a record of 9-5. So basically, this match didn't mean anything for either team, either USA or China. So the only difference was that Turkey and China both had the same number of points. They both each had 30 points. However, Turkey had the better record between the two, so Turkey is in the semifinals while China is on the outside looking in. They finished 5th, which is actually pretty good. So there's that, but still, it doesn't mean anything because all that matters is semifinals and whatnot. So USA is playing Turkey in the semifinals. They've already played Turkey as they beat them in 4 sets. They swept them they beat them in 4 sets last Monday. So unless Turkey switches around things, then it's pretty much going to be the same song and dance. For USA, I definitely think they can pretty much win now. Like, now that they've got the loss out of the way, I think they can beat the field. I think they could definitely beat Turkey. I don't know about Brazil, considering Brazil, it's been a while since they faced Brazil. I want to say Brazil was it was their 3rd match of the season, or of the VNL. So it's been way too long, which was May 27th. So they haven't faced Brazil in over 4 weeks. So Brazil could have switched around a whole lot from that time all the way to now. So, and then they haven't, and when it came to Japan, looking at their full schedule, they faced Japan on June 13th. So, okay, that one is a little bit more sooner. So, if Team USA faces Japan, unless Japan has changed things drastically, then I think USA will be fine between Turkey in the semis and then Japan if Japan gets out of their semifinal. But Brazil will be an interesting little semifinal or an interesting little matchup if USA gets Brazil. So we'll have to wait and see. USA is definitely not short of any talent, especially if they're playing their starters. Like, I'm sure they have been challenged. And that's been the good thing. USA has been challenged. They haven't breezed through everybody. Because if they had just swept through everybody, then I'd be a little bit worried. And especially since Coach Karch has said we've been disappointed in some of these wins, which that speaks to actually high volumes of what he means by that. Like, you could play good, like you could win, but you could also win pretty bad. If you know what I mean. I know that sounds like a little bit of an oxymoron, but sometimes there is such thing as a good loss or a bad win. I'm no coach, that's for sure, but there is such thing as a good loss or a bad win and a turning point to the season. Like, sometimes teams don't have turning points just because their season or their little, tournament has, been so good to them for the most part, but for USA, I don't think they've really had a turning point. I guess their true turning point would be beating Turkey, which was a huge win for them, and beating Japan as well. So, again, it is what it is for Team USA. We'll have to see what happens to them in this upcoming week. The final, I know, is slated for Saturday, so that's pretty cool if you ask me, but right now, USA has to focus on Turkey. I'm sure this one's not going to be as easy as the previous matchup, but it shouldn't be too terrible. It all depends, though, so we'll see how it goes. But for the time being, I think the women's team has a good shot. Now let's jump over to the men's team. The men's team I haven't really paid too much attention to. The U.S. men's team, considering they honestly haven't been doing all that great. They did lose today to, what was it, Russia? No, they lost to Slovenia in 5 sets today. The USA won the first set 30-28. They lost the second set 25-19. They won the third set 25-21. They lost the fourth set 28-26, which that's a bummer. And then they lost the fifth set 15-13, which, ugh. And USA is currently 8th in the standings. They are 6-7, which, ugh. That's rather saddening because I know USA has a lot of great talent on that team. But I guess Slovenia is good because Slovenia was in the top 3 with as they entered the record. They entered today 9-3 and now they're 10-3. And Brazil is still the number 1 team as they're 12-1, while Poland is 11-2, Slovenia is 10-3, and France and Russia are tied for France, Russia, and Serbia are all tied for 4th at 9-4, with France and Russia having been tied in points with 29. However, France has the better set win-loss ratio, as France has won 35 sets but has lost 20 sets, while Russia has won 33 sets but has lost 19. So France with a good little win-loss set ratio, but there's still plenty of time left. I'm pretty sure there's like a few more matches. Yeah, there is one. Russia has 2 more matches. Tomorrow against Italy and then Wednesday against Brazil, which Brazil is going to be a very tough one for them, so we'll see. But as for USA, which is going to look to try to finish the VNL on a high note, they face Bulgaria tomorrow, and then they face Japan on Wednesday. According to the standings, Bulgaria is near the bottom as they're 2-11, while Japan is slightly above USA as they are 7-6. They are 7th in the VNL standings. Unfortunately, the men won't be advancing to the semifinals unless the VNL on the men's side is using the quarterfinal system, which I highly doubt. Which, if they're using the quarterfinal system and the women are using the semifinal system, that's kind of messed up if you ask me. But I digress. I'm pretty sure it's going to be semifinals. So, all in all, it's all about finishing strong for USA, and hopefully they do good in the Olympics. I'm sure they will. But you look at all the talent that the VNL has. Brazil is good. I didn't know Poland had a great team. Slovenia, I also didn't know about them having a great team. France is a promising team. Russia as well. I think USA is good, but I don't think can they be better than some of these teams. So we'll see how it goes, though. But hopefully they could just finish out on a strong note. So there's that too. So we'll see. We shall see. But for right now, that's going to do it for the professional international volleyball sort of play. I really am looking forward to the VNL women's semifinals. I think the women's semifinals is wide open. The men's should also be wide open as well. Looking at Brazil's win-loss record, looking at their schedule right now, I'm trying to see which match they lost to and who they lost to. Oh, they lost to... Brazil lost to France, which France is... they're in the top 4, so... But Brazil also defeated Japan as well, so... So, there's that right there. But all in all, the men's little VNL is getting close. I don't know when the championship is, but we'll have to see. Once I get where the championship is, or when the championship is, then I'll provide more updates on that. I'm pretty sure it should be 1 week after the women's matchup, so there's that. Alright, now let's jump on into some volleyball news, some NCAA transfer volleyball news. I won't go into the full-on transfers just because... Actually, no. There's not too many transfers, so we might as well just jump into the transfers and jump into the player decision. So, the player decision. So, Mac May of UCLA, the Mac May, the standout from UCLA, has come back for a 5th season. So, that's good news for UCLA. I kind of wish you chose USC, but I digress. So, UCLA is going to be looking pretty promising this upcoming season. It's all about them trying not to get out of their own way, just because they had a good shot at winning the Pac-12. It's just that they kept losing to some of these unnecessary opponents like Colorado, and I think they lost to Arizona State. I know they lost to USC, which, as a USC fan, that's kind of funny, LOL. But I digress on that as well. But at least UCLA got to the second round. It's just that they lost to the defensive dynamo that is BYU. So that was kind of a short-lived postseason, just making it out of the first round and then losing in the Sweet. No, it wasn't the Sweet 16. It was the round of 32. So, well. But now let's jump on into the full transfers. We didn't get too much transfer news, if you ask me. So, looking at the college volleyball transfers, we left off on Leah Schmidt transferring from Utah to Cal, which that was huge right there. So now all these transfers have transferred from their old school to their new school. There hasn't been anyone that has most recently entered the transfer portal ever since last week's show. So let's start off with Mariha Popovich, the former SoCon Libero of the Year, who eventually transferred to Pitt. She is now transferred to Iowa State, where she'll be a member of Iowa State. She will be going from the ACC over to the Big 12, which I'm a little surprised, just because maybe she wasn't too far on the libero depth chart, but that's kind of unusual for her to transfer from a promising program that was Pitt over to I wouldn't say not so promising program that's Iowa State, but Iowa State is basically going to be in the shadow of Baylor and Texas, and also in the shadow of Kansas State, which has also drastically improved. So I don't know what Mariha Popovich was thinking, but maybe she just needed a change of scenery. I don't know. So Popovich is a graduate student. She's a 5'5" libero, as, again, she's going from Pitt over to Iowa State. Then we have Leilani Dodson, who is a middle blocker transferring from BYU, as she'll be transferring to Northwestern. So she went from West Coast Conference to Big Ten. She is, like I said, she's a freshman 6'1" middle blocker, and she is heading to Chicago to Northwestern. So that's good news right there. Now this one was probably the biggest transfer in my eyes from last week all the way to today. Layla Blackwell, a former Indiana standout, as Layla Blackwell has transferred to San Diego. So she goes from Big Ten to West Coast Conference, as this is a huge get for San Diego, because honestly, San Diego has a promising team with Grace Froling and Katie Lukes. The problem is that COVID kind of hurt their team. Even though in the beginning it wasn't so bad, but San Diego kind of just faltered as the season went by. As I think they won their first 11 games of the season, and then they wound up deteriorating, losing to LMU in disappointing fashion, and then they lost to BYU both times, and then they lost to Pepperdine in their second to last match of the season. And luckily they were able to salvage a split against Pepperdine, which, to me, I think that is probably the team to beat. Somewhat. But I think San Diego is going to be a lot better. Like, San Diego was picked to win the West Coast Conference last year, and they vastly underachieved. I don't know how, but I just explained it, that LMU was... Their loss against LMU was indeed a trap game. I even called it. I said that match against those two matches against LMU are 100% trap game material, because LMU is one of the big rivals of San Diego. Like their true main rival is BYU, but LMU is kind of up the street, is up the 405 or Pacific Coast Highway. Either way, it was just a disappointing ending for San Diego, and they eventually lost in the round of 32 to Louisville. They gave Louisville all they can handle, but it just wasn't there. So Layla Blackwell should be able to help them out. So then we have, now this one transfer was kind of fascinating. We have, I'm probably going to butcher her name, Shakina Tinsley, who is transferring from Utah, as she is transferring to UC Davis. Now, UC Davis did not have a season last year because the Big West Conference decided to pump the brakes on fall sports, which I think, in my opinion, was not the smartest decision out there. Like, they gave no love to the fall sports, but they gave all the love to the spring sports and basketball, which I guess it's because of, like, small markets, and they want basketball to get their time in for money purposes. But they really did, like, men's water polo, women's volleyball, I think cross country, men's and women's soccer, and women's volleyball. I think I already said that already. Dirty. So that's just my little take. But as for the transfer, Tinsley is going to make a huge impact with the Aggies of UC Davis. UC Davis has always been that good team, but they haven't been a great team compared to the other teams in the Big West Conference, such as Hawaii, UC Santa Barbara, Cal Poly, you name it. Like they've been good, but nowhere near great, which is a huge problem. So too bad for them, but they do get this very talented player, and this adds a lot of depth to UC Davis's lineup. So there's that. Then we have Charity Bradley, who is transferring from Washington State over to Portland. So she's going from Pac-12 to West Coast Conference. That's another Pac-12 player that's leaving. It's like the Pac-12 is not all that it's cracked up to be, which is surprising. So Charity Bradley is a 6'4" outside hitter. She's a graduate student, and she's going to be playing for the Portland Pilots, which is cool. It's going to take a lot more for Portland to get up there in the West Coast Conference, the power rankings. It's going to take a lot more than Charity Bradley to get Portland up the power rankings, because Portland still has to deal with the very talented teams such as BYU and San Diego and Portland and Pepperdine and whatnot. So there's that. So then we have Jade Sadeko, who is transferring from Oregon, another Pac-12 transfer, as she is transferring to Florida International. She is a 6'3" outside hitter, and she's only a sophomore. So Sadeko is going to Florida International. So she's going from Eugene, Oregon, all the way down south to the other Sunshine State. The true Sunshine State is California. Let's get one thing right. But that's kind of a good get for Florida International, but kind of a big loss for Oregon. So c'est la vie. Then we have Maddie Holt, who is transferring from Wake Forest all the way to Drake. So she is she's a 5'11" graduate student who is also a setter. So Maddie Holt is going from ACC down to Drake, which is cool. I mean, Drake has a somewhat of a promising team, but they're not all that great. So maybe she'll be able to provide a spark, because again, some of these players sometimes need a new change of scenery, because again, here's the thing about Wake Forest. Gina in the chat room says, who could teach me what Pac-12 means? Pac-12 means Pacific 12, and it's home to Stanford and Cal, as well as USC, UCLA, Oregon, Oregon State, Washington, Washington State, Utah, and Colorado. I feel I'm missing some teams, but I digress. Anyway, so Wake Forest is one of the worst teams in the ACC. Wake Forest is bad. I want to say they finished with one of the worst records in the ACC. I think they finished with the second worst record. Like the first worst record, other than Virginia, which opted out the rest of their volleyball season, was the worst team in the ACC outside of Virginia who opted out was Boston College. Wake Forest was a close second. This Wake Forest team was not good, and I kind of understand why Maddie Holt transferred, because she doesn't want. Because I understand why some players don't want to be a part of programs that are basically getting the floor mopped up with them, because no one likes losing. And you want to know what cures players transferring or players leaving? Winning and a good culture. So, again, maybe Maddie Holt just needs a new fresh start. And just an FYI, Wake Forest's only win of ACC play was Duke. Yes, it was Duke and not Boston College, because they never got to play Boston College, which is funny, because that would have been a River of Tears matchup for fans and players alike. But I digress. So, I understand the situation why she left Wake Forest. Hopefully Wake Forest does do better. Maybe this was just an ACC thing, and maybe everything was just too foreign for Wake Forest, but oh well. Then we have Samara Riley transferring from East Carolina to Nicholls State. Riley is a redshirt sophomore who's listed at 5'10", and she's a middle blocker. Quite interesting that she's a middle blocker. I know middle blockers are supposed to be like 6 feet or above, but interesting that she's 5'10". But I can't judge. It doesn't matter the size of the dog on the outside. It matters. The only thing that matters from the dog is the heart, the size of the heart. That made no sense, but oh well. Either way, Riley Samara is transferring to Nicholls State from East Carolina. So, c'est la vie. Then we have Kennedy Warren, who is transferring from Idaho over to Houston. Warren is a junior listed at 6 feet, and she's an outside hitter. So she is a 2-time All-Big Sky outside hitter for Idaho, and now she is heading to Houston, which is kind of good because Houston was decent this year. They almost beat Baylor, and I think they beat Rice, which eventually made the NCAA tournament. Unfortunately, Rice couldn't play because of COVID, but I digress. So I think this is somewhat of a good get for Houston, and she will have at least 2 more seasons just in case she does want to take the fifth-year option. So we'll see. And then the last transfer on the transfer list all the way from last week dating till now is Danielle Williams, as she is transferring from Northwestern down to Tulane to play for the Green Wave. Danielle Williams is a 6'1" outside hitter, as she is also a graduate student, so she's basically going to be closing out her collegiate career with the Green Wave, which I guess that's good. Again, Northwestern isn't one of the best teams in the Big Ten, and I apologize, Northwestern fans, but at the very least, I will say this. Again, at least she gets a fresh start. Again, maybe that's what some of these teams need, and based off, she doesn't have too many honors or accolades, and it doesn't look like she has any honors or accolades, but maybe she could make a name for herself down at Tulane, so we'll see how it goes for her. But for right now, there are no recent transfer news outside of those 10. This is probably the most quiet we've seen the transfer portal be rocking, so But the big news was Mac May returning, which was posted on social media via Mac May herself. And then also Stephanie Samity made her decision to come back to Minnesota this past week, as Minnesota is going to be loaded. And on that note, we're actually going to take ourselves a little commercial break. When we come back, we will be getting into some of the Big Ten volleyball schedules, and we'll also be seeing the full release of the Big 12 schedule, and then we'll be talking some AVP news, as we will be finding out where these matches will be played and where these matches will be held at, and then I'll send you all on your way. So you're listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back after a word from these commercials.
Hey guys, it's Blake Henley, better known as H-Town Blake to some of you. Happy to announce that Bases Loaded is back in full force. We'll be bringing that high heat every Tuesday night here on IE Sports Radio. So come home, get ready, dig into that batter's box, and see if you can chase that high heat, baby. So we'll be coming to you live with all the stats, all the rundowns, all the division rivalries, and every team that's going to make the playoff push to get to that one and only October and get to the pinnacle of what baseball is, to hoist that Commissioner's Trophy when it's all said and done.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back with segment number 2 of Set Point. You can catch all of our amazing shows here on many platforms such as Spreaker, Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, Podcast Addict, iHeartRadio, which actually, and surprisingly, this show is actually featured on iHeartRadio. I didn't know that until I saw this a little while ago, like last week. But you can check out all of our amazing shows on different platforms, not just Spreaker, but definitely do check out all of our amazing shows. We do a great job of providing quality work and also delivering by the fans for the fans. And without you fans, we wouldn't be amounting to too much. And you could also go to iSportsRadio.com to see all of our amazing past guests and some of our up-and-coming guests, if we plan to have any up-and-coming guests. You can also, and in the works, we'll have our podcasters, such as myself, with their bios as well, and who we are and what we do and what shows we host. So there's that. All right, now on to segment number 2 of Set Point, and we'll talk a little AVP. We'll talk some AVP, which is cool, which was cool stuff right there, and And the big news from the AVP was that they are back, which is awesome. And they will be going to several different places for the summer for their little AVP series. I call it like a tour if I'm being 100% honest, but basically it's a series. It's a summer series for like some of these summer tournaments and whatnot. But it is what it is. Like, I don't care what it's called. If it's called a series or a tour, so be it. So this was announced on June 18th, which was on Friday. So in 3 events on 3 different weekends, the AVP will be traveling to 3 different cities to have volleyball events. So the first city will be in Atlanta, Georgia, and this is all going to be in August. Like, the first 2 events are going to be in August, and then the last event's going to be on Labor Day weekend. So the first event is going to go from August 13th through August 15th, and the first event is going to be located in Atlanta, Georgia. And according to the AVP website, here's what they had to say about the first event. It's fitting that the first travel tourney of the post-COVID AVP Tour will take place in the same place that hosted the first Olympic beach volleyball appearance. And it talks about 1996 being the debut. The U.S. men dominated the show, winning gold and silver. And then 25 years later, as the first event after Tokyo, it'll be interesting to see how the results of the games factor into the vibe of the Atlanta AVP. And I'm looking forward to this. And it's good because I don't know if Atlanta is known for having volleyball outside of like Georgia or Georgia Tech or indoor volleyball, but if it isn't really known for like beach volleyball, then I can't wait to see what the AVP has in store. And I'm going to get more into AVP because, again, AVP, I had to talk about the AVP last year when COVID happened because there was no volleyball happening. And hopefully we'll get to see Alex Kleinman and April Ross do their thing after the Olympics. Like, once the Olympics start, I'll also be talking quite a bit about that. So there's that for the Atlanta, Georgia site. As, again, it'll be starting on August 13th and ending on August 15th, which is the championship match of that AVP event. Then on August 20th through August 22nd, the AVP will be heading back to Manhattan Beach. So, according to the AVP site, they say, of course we had to make MBO happen even though California regulations are some of the strictest in the country. Yeah, I don't blame them for saying that. The Wimbledon of beach volleyball, typically held during the same weekend every year, takes place in the backyard of more than half of the AVP. With the prestige that comes with being the MBO champ and having your name solidified on Manhattan Beach Pier's Volleyball Walk of Fame, the reigning champions will be returning to repeat their glory. Canadians Sarah and Mel currently hold the title, but the Americans are anxious to win it back. And though men's current champs Trevor Crabb and Reed Pretty likely won't play together, they'll be seeking a repeat with different partners. And someone else who's I wonder if this player will be participating in the AVP. I'm sure he will. It's Avery Drost. I'm kind of hoping he participates, and I hope he does beach volleyball because he's the head coach of Mira Costa's boys volleyball team. And Mira Costa, for those that are wondering, is in Manhattan Beach, and that's where Avery Drost is from. And again, Avery Drost, he's such a great down-to-earth guy, even though his team beat my Newport Harbor Sailors. But I digress. But Avery Drost is also a beach volleyball player when he's not playing or when he's not coaching boys volleyball. So there's that right there, and I hope we could see Mr. Drost do his thing. Like, if anything, I'd like to go to this. Like, if if there's like a limited number of fans, I'll see what I could do to try to go and like provide coverage and maybe do like a little bit of a set point vlog, because this is going to be after the 100th episode of Set Point. And who knows, maybe I'll do a 100th episode special when it comes to this event. Like, maybe I'll just take like some weeks off for Set Point. But that is too far ahead. I'm looking too far ahead, and I don't know if I'm even going to be having episodes of Set Point down the stretch. Like, it all depends. Like, I'm a guy who still wants to continue to do Set Point no matter what the case is. But I will not throw out the idea of having a vlog when it comes to this AVP event in Manhattan Beach. I've never really been to Manhattan Beach. I actually have taken the bus to Miracosta, to like close to Miracosta High School, but that's about as close as Manhattan Beach as I'm going to be getting. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but it would be cool if I were to like do a vlog or at least some sort of like providing updates on this. So keep a lookout for that. That's all the way in August. So we're currently in June, so that's 2 months away. But the AVP in itself is less than 2 months away, so we'll see. Anyway, the last weekend of the AVP will be held on September 3rd and will go through till September 5th. I forgot to mention the event in Manhattan Beach will go from August 20th to August 22nd, and the 22nd will be the championship match and the final day of everything else. And then the last weekend of the AVP series / tour is going to be on September 3rd and will go through till September 5th. And that's going to be held on Labor Day weekend. So I guess they're going to take a week off and then get back at it when it comes to Labor Day weekend. So I guess that's cool. That's nice, which is nice and all. So I guess that's the best way to end summer, but where it's going to be held at is quite fascinating. So the location for the last AVP series / tour event is going to be held in Chicago, Illinois. Now, I'm no Chicago expert, but I feel Chicago is well known for having good beaches. Like, I don't know if they're the greatest. Like, I would need like a Chicago expert to tell me if their beaches are good. I'm pretty sure their beaches are good, but I've never really known them for being a beach city. So they're the windy city, that's for sure, but I don't know about beach. But I'm sure it'll be like fun to have. Like, again, Chicago. I don't really think Chicago's well known for beach volleyball, but with the AVP coming to see this, it would be pretty good to see like beach volleyball fans flock over to see this event. And I know one of our own, Adam Karnick, is a huge beach volleyball fan, and he will be fascinated to see this AVP event. And who knows, maybe we'll get a little bit of a vlog from him. So if you're a fan of Chicago sports, definitely do check out Chi-Town Weekly every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Central Time, here on IE Sports Radio. That show comes on before Set Point does, so definitely do keep an eye out for that. So, as for what the AVP says about the final event, as always, the AVP will be in the Windy City to close out the Gold Series. Oak Street Beach, the site of the AVP championships of years past, will serve as the closer on the series and the summer. Chicago is personally my favorite stop. I guess that's the writer's favorite stop. I went to college inside the Loop and grew up just a few hours away from Indianapolis. I'm crossing my fingers for a big fan numbers on this one so my parents and grandpa can come. And I guess Chicago is well known for its beaches and for beach volleyball. So I really hope we get a big turnout for Chicago as well. I'd like to see a big turnout. Like, I don't know how big of a hotbed volleyball is in terms of beach volleyball in Chicago, but again, if it's well known, if if beach volleyball has their event every single season here in Chicago for the AVP, then it has to be somewhat worthy. It has to be somewhat known for its beach volleyball. Like, again, I don't think Chicago is the biggest beach volleyball city, considering Chicago is a big market city when it comes to sports, like the Bulls, the Bears, the White Sox, the Cubs, the Blackhawks, the Sky, the list goes on and on. But I'm pretty sure we'll get to see some beach volleyball fans watch this AVP event, so I'm excited for the conclusion of the AVP season. And the only problem I think with the AVP is that NCAA volleyball, women's volleyball season, and NCAA and the AVP will be going on at the same time. So it may be tough to talk about both at the same time, which means we may have to get like a longer show. Like, it's certainly going to be longer than like an hour and 30 minutes. So we'll see what happens. Like, maybe the season will start a little bit later. But on that note of NCAA women's volleyball, let's transition into that and transition out of some AVP action. So the Big 12 has released its conference volleyball schedule. So they've released the whole schedule. So I'm not going to break down all the matches, but I will break down some of the noteworthy ones. So Big 12 volleyball play starts on Friday, September 24th. And the matchups going on will be Baylor at Kansas State, TCU at Iowa State, Kansas at Texas Tech, and Oklahoma at West Virginia. Then on Saturday, it'll be the same matches. And I guess the Big Ten is still keeping the rule of the two teams are facing each other on consecutive days, or for the exception of some teams, they'll play on like Friday and then Sunday, depending on if they don't like go past their religion and whatnot. Kind of like what BYU has, but you know what I mean. And then on Thursday, September 20th, Texas, the reigning Big 12 champion, will face West Virginia at Texas. And then Friday, we have Texas Tech at Baylor, Iowa State at Kansas, Kansas State at Oklahoma, and West Virginia at Texas. Then on Saturday, we have another Texas Tech at Baylor, Iowa State at Kansas, Kansas State at Oklahoma, and those are the matchups. And then on Thursday, October 7th, we have Iowa State at Texas Tech. Friday, October 8th, we have Iowa State at Texas Tech, Texas at Kansas, No, I'm thinking of Baylor. My bad. I thought Kansas beat Texas last year, but they didn't. And then Oklahoma at TCU. Then on Saturday, we have Texas at Kansas again, and then Oklahoma at TCU again. Then on Thursday, October 14th, we have Kansas at Baylor, which now Kansas was the team that beat Baylor last season in the season opener, so I'm sure Baylor might come out with a little bit of revenge, but I digress. We have West Virginia at Kansas State, TCU at Texas, and Texas Tech at Oklahoma. Then on Saturday, we have Texas Tech at Oklahoma again. Then on Thursday, October 21st, we have Texas at Iowa State. Then we have Kansas State at TCU. Then on Friday, we have Texas and Iowa State again, Kansas State at TCU again, and then we have Baylor at West Virginia. Then on Saturday, we have Baylor at West Virginia again, because why not? Then on Thursday, October 28th, we have Texas Tech at Kansas State. Then on Friday, we have Texas Tech at Kansas State again. Then on that same day, we have West Virginia at Iowa State, and then we have Oklahoma at Kansas. Then on Saturday, there's West Virginia at Iowa State, and then Oklahoma at Kansas. And then Thursday, November 4th, we have Kansas at West Virginia. And then Friday, we have Kansas at West Virginia again. Then this is the big matchup. This is the big matchup right here. Friday, November 5th, there's also Texas at Baylor. So both matchups last year were at Texas. This time it's going to be at Baylor. Both matchups are going to be at Baylor, so I guess that's fair play. But Texas at Baylor is where it's at on Friday, November 5th. Then Iowa State at Oklahoma, then TCU at Texas Tech. Then on Saturday, we have Texas at Baylor Part 2, followed by Iowa State at Oklahoma, then TCU at Texas Tech. Then on Thursday, November 11th, Veterans Day, we have Kansas State at Iowa State, and Oklahoma at Texas. Then on Friday, we have Oklahoma at Texas, and then Baylor at TCU. Then on Saturday, we have Kansas State at Iowa State again, and then Baylor at TCU again. Then Thursday, we have Texas Tech at West Virginia. Then on Friday, there's Texas Tech at West Virginia, followed by Iowa State at Baylor, TCU at Kansas, and Kansas State at Texas. The Kansas State at Texas one should be quite fascinating, considering Kansas State has a solid team, and they were one of the last four, or the first four out when it came to missing the NCAA tournament of this season. On a traditionary season, we would see Kansas State making the NCAA tournament with ease, with the greatest of ease. Anyway, then on Saturday we have Baylor at Oklahoma, and then Wednesday, November 24th, we have Baylor at Oklahoma. The first matchup between Baylor at Oklahoma will be on Tuesday, November 23rd. And then Friday, November 26th, there will be Kansas at Kansas State, West Virginia at TCU, and Texas at Texas Tech, which the same matchups will be on Saturday, November 27th. Kansas at Kansas State, West Virginia at TCU, and Texas at Texas Tech. So those are the matchups. The Big 12 is mainly a two-horse race between Texas and Baylor. Kansas State is most likely going to be playing third banana, considering they have a lot of decent talent. Though some of their talent did transfer, they still have Aaliyah Carter, who is, despite her being 5'9", she is very mighty when it comes to those swings, and when it comes to her jumping out the gym. So we'll see if Kansas State can make the NCAA tournament this time around. So there's that for the Big 12. Also, Baylor released its schedule, though I think it's only their conference schedule, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's just their conference schedule. They haven't released their full-on schedule. So that kind of stinks, but c'est la vie, you know? So a team that actually has released its full-on schedule is Nebraska. So Nebraska, the Cornhuskers, or the Huskers, they have released their full-on schedule, and it goes as follows. So August 27th, they face Tulsa at noon. I think it's noon. It's not noon Pacific time. I think it's like noon their time, or like Central Time, and then they face Colgate at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. So all their matchups are most likely going to be at Central Time, unless I am mistaken. If I'm not, which I'm looking at their little article right here. Doesn't say if the times are going to be whatchamacallit times, Central or Eastern. So it is what it is. I'm just going to read off the matchups. So Tulsa and Colgate are both going to be playing Nebraska on August 27th. Then on August 28th, this one's going to be an interesting matchup. It's going to be Kansas State versus Nebraska at Nebraska, the Devaney Center. Now, Kansas State is a team that, if they want to make the NCAA tournament, they got to register big-time wins. I don't think they'll beat Nebraska, but they should at least give them a battle. So there's that. And then they'll stay in at the Devaney Center. This time they'll play Omaha, which isn't too far from their neck of the woods. Then they'll play Georgia. They'll play Georgia and Omaha on September 3rd. And then on September 4th, they'll play Arizona State, which Arizona State's not the greatest team, but you could also say that for Omaha. I think Omaha is slightly underrated, even though I think they kind of disappointed when it came to their season last year. They looked somewhat promising when they knocked off UMKC, but that was in the past. So there's that right there for those three matchups in the Emeritus Players Challenge. The first challenge is the Husker Invitational. And then on Wednesday, they have a non-conference conference game against Creighton. That's going to be at the Chi Health Center in Omaha, Nebraska. So it's basically at Creighton, which Creighton was the host school of the NCAA tournament. So that's going to be quite the fun little matchup. That's like a little backyard matchup between Creighton and Nebraska. Like, I still expect Nebraska to come out on top just because they have such great players. And with the players with players like Lexi Sun coming back, this Nebraska team should be a team on a mission. And then Saturday, September 11th, Nebraska plays Utah at the Devaney Center in Lincoln, Nebraska. So here's the thing about Utah. Utah has lost a few of its players to transfers, but they do have some players that have come to them. I don't think Utah is going to be beating Nebraska, though. Utah, to me, doesn't strike me as the team that's going to be knocking off like a top 10 team. I see Nebraska in the top 10. I think Utah is going to be borderline top 25, if not just outside. So we'll see if Utah wins that matchup, but I don't think they're going to win. I think Nebraska's going to like roll them up like a fruit roll up. And then Tuesday, September 14th, this one's going to be the fascinating matchup. This is going to be a fascinating matchup right here. It's going to be Nebraska at Stanford. Now, Stanford obviously was not good this season. They had only one senior, and they had a lot of their matches canceled because of COVID. But unfortunately, Stanford just had a very rotten season. But they should be better next year, considering they returned most of their talent. So we'll see if Stanford can give Nebraska a big challenge. Like, Nebraska's going to be fired up, and it wouldn't shock me in the slightest to see Nebraska fans traveling to Palo Alto to see their beloved Nebraska Huskers face Stanford. So we'll see. Then on September 18th, we have Nebraska closing out non-conference play against Louisville. Louisville was a team that made the Sweet 16. This is a team that I think is going to be somewhat of a challenge for Nebraska, but I think Louisville will, with some of the talent that they return, I think they'll give Nebraska a good run for their money. I think that could go either way, so we'll see. Then, after Nebraska faces Louisville, they will travel to Evanston, Illinois to face Northwestern on September 22nd. And then after that, on September 25th, they return home to face Iowa. Then on October 1st, they face Michigan. And then on October 3rd, they face Michigan State. And then their schedule starts to pick up a little. On October 8th, Nebraska travels to University Park, Pennsylvania to face Penn State in a nice little matchup, in a nice little Big Ten matchup. That's going to be a very fun matchup, and that's going to be a big test for Penn State to see if they can actually take down the boogeyman that is Nebraska. Then Nebraska on October 9th plays at Rutgers, and then on October 3rd, Nebraska returns home to face Indiana. Then on October 16th, Nebraska plays Illinois at home. Then on October 20th, Nebraska plays at Iowa. And then then the schedule starts to pick up a little. Nebraska on October 23rd plays Purdue. That's going to be a really good matchup considering Purdue returns everybody on their team. Unless I'm mistaken. But they return everybody from all the news that I've gathered. And then on October 27th, this is the anticipated matchup right here. Nebraska plays Wisconsin at home, which I'm pretty sure Nebraska is licking its chops to face Wisconsin because the matchup between Wisconsin unfortunately got canceled because of some COVID tracing and whatnot, and COVID protocols, and how Wisconsin had to be isolated for 3 weeks. So that was quite the bummer. And then on October 30th, Nebraska will travel to Minneapolis to face the Golden Gophers of Minnesota. Then on October 4th, the Nebraska plays at Illinois. On November 6th, Nebraska plays at Ohio State. Then on November 12th, Nebraska plays Maryland. On November 14th, Nebraska plays at Indiana. Then November 19th, Nebraska plays Penn State in round 2 of its little matchup between them and the Nittany Lions. And then on November 20th, which is the second of a back-to-back, surprisingly, Nebraska plays Rutgers, which thankfully for Nebraska's sake, they don't have to travel. That would not have been fun, having to travel from one city to another. That'd basically be hopping on a red eye and then hopping to another city, which would not have been convenient for them. Then on November 26th, Nebraska will be transferring to Madison, Wisconsin to face the Badgers of Wisconsin, which will be round 2, which I'm very excited for that. And then now, I am actually mistaken. Nebraska will actually have to travel on back-to-back nights. So, the day after they face Wisconsin, Nebraska actually has to head on a red-eye, and then they have to play at Purdue on Saturday, November 27th, which, that's brutal right there. And that's after Thanksgiving. So teams are basically going to get to have their Thanksgiving break, then they got to get back to playing Wisconsin, and they have to travel to play Wisconsin, then they have to travel again to play Purdue, which is absolutely bonkers to me. Like, they got to travel a lot in that short span of time, especially on Thanksgiving week. But I guess that's the Big Ten for you. And that's the end of their season right there. So that's the full Nebraska schedule. Like, other teams have released their Big Ten schedule, like Purdue and Wisconsin. But I'm not going to fully get into that until the full Big Ten schedule is released. And once that happens, maybe I'll bring back Emily Eamon, my former guest on Set Point, which will be fun times right there. But we're not going to look too far ahead. One last thing before we sign off here on Set Point. So when it comes to the VNL being televised, the Volleyball World TV is streaming the matches for the VNL. I think it's going to be the women's matches and the men's matches, which I can't wait to see the women's match, which USA is in. Like, I'm going to have a lot to say about that. I think it's like a subscriber price thing, which if you don't want to like watch the FIVB, then it's like full time, then it's not really worth it. Unless you just want to watch the first time thing. Like, you can watch the full match replays, but honestly, I don't think it's fully worth it. I think Team USA is having like some sort of contest on Instagram, but again, I can't like guarantee that. Like, I'm not entirely certain. If not Team USA, it's probably like Off the Block or something. But all in all, I think, to me, it's going to be quite fun for the if you're much into that thing, like if you're much into the FIVB, the FIBA volleyball thing, then so be it. But overall, I don't think it's fully worth getting a subscription package, like just for like a few matches and whatnot. So overall, I think it's not necessarily the most worthy thing. But if you're into that thing, I'm not going to stop you. Like, maybe I'll be able to catch it, but looks like some of these matches are these up and coming matches and these full match replays are locked. Which, let me see what happens if I try to click on one. I guess not. Let's see what happens. Oh you select a plan. You get the 24-hour pass, which is $4.99, which actually is not a bad plan. And then the VNL Finals, which is $8.99, which I wouldn't recommend it unless, of course, your team is in it. So, again, I'm not trying to be diminishing of this whole thing, but I digress. So, these are full match replays. Oh well, but that's pretty much that for. I just need to get that out there because they also have the app, the Volleyball World TV app, which is available on the Apple Store, and I think they're also available on Google Podcasts. Or not Google Podcasts. Why did I say Google Podcasts? Google Apps, and then I think they're also available on the Android app. I feel like I'm promoting VBTV. VBTV, please sponsor Set Point and IE Sports Radio. I'm just kidding. But on that note, that's going to end today's little episode of Set Point. There wasn't too much happening. Obviously, we had the recap of the VNL, and then we had some transfer news and whatnot. And we also had some schedule releases. We had the full schedule of Nebraska being released, and we had the Big 12 schedule released. Unfortunately, not all of the Big 12 has released its schedule. But I am looking forward to that Baylor-Texas matchup. That is basically what's going to be the match that truly matters in the Big 12. Unless another team is able to take over and take down Baylor and Texas. But as of right now, that's going to do it for today's episode of Set Point. Thank you very much for listening into this episode. Hopefully we'll have a lot more to talk about next week. And who knows, maybe we'll try to have a guest on for next week. Who knows? I keep saying that, but I keep finding ways to make it do what it do when it comes to the show. But thank you to everyone that tuned into the chat room. Gina, a.k.a. Miss Reppin' DeNorCal Sports, who had a dip for dinner, but she enjoyed the show, and I appreciate it. We had Larry B in the chat room, and then we also had Adam, who unfortunately had to dip to put his kid to bed, but it is what it is. But I appreciate y'all tuning in the chat room. And without any further delay, it's time, ladies and gentlemen, to drop that beat, because I'm about to dip like a banana in chocolate. You feel me? Thank you very much for tuning in to Set Point. I appreciate y'all tuning in. Once again, thank you to the chat room. Thank you to those listening on the live stream. I appreciate you. If you're listening on the replay, I also appreciate you. If you're listening in the wee hours in the morning or the late hours at night, I also appreciate you. If you're listening anytime at all, I also very much appreciate you. Thank you to the Southern California Wars for being the official sponsor of IE Sports Radio. We greatly appreciate you as well. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourselves a great rest of the week. Enjoy all the sports going on. Enjoy the VNL, because that women's semifinal is going to be something special. I'm hopefully going to watch it, and maybe I'll actually buy the 24-hour pass. Who knows? Either way, I'll see you all on the other side. I'll see you Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Once again, if you're in California, wear lots of sunscreen because it is hot. If you're not vaccinated, do get vaccinated, even though the mask ban is gone. But regardless, be safe out there, be good people, and I will see you on the other side. Have a great night, everybody.